and welcome. I have with me Mr. Sudhakar Adapa, founder and CEO, BIA Brands. A Harvard and IIM alumni, Sudhakar is a serial entrepreneur, running a diverse range of companies in sectors such as F&B, beauty and personal care, media and human resources across India, US, and the Middle East. Today, we will talk about the future of e-commerce in India, and who better than Mr. Sudhakar Adapa to dissect that for us. Thank you very much for joining us, Sudhakar. My first question to you will be about Q-commerce, quick commerce. Do you think that quick commerce will be the death of e-commerce?
Well, e-commerce is thriving these days, and quick commerce, as you call it, Q-commerce, is probably the newer version of e-commerce there. If you look at the fundamentals of business there, the fundamentals of business are going to will remain the same. It is just that the way we deliver things are going to change. Now, quick commerce, is it going to be a sustainable thing? I would say yes and a no. Yes, because it is another form of commerce which will survive. But I think what I really think is that the definition of quick will change. Now, right now, the expectations of the consumer is that they are expecting everything to be delivered under 10 minutes. And if you say 20 minutes for a consumer, he's going to say, no, I can't wait for 10 more minutes out there. But the only thing is that if you want to deliver everything in 10 minutes, under 10 minutes there are certain categories like groceries and certain products where you can deliver in 10 minutes time, because India is a country where the density of the population is huge, which actually makes it which makes actually India one of the few countries where quick commerce actually worked. But I think it's going to be like the categories that you can do in quick commerce are going to be few and far in between. But majority of the categories, I think the definition of quick will change from 10 minutes to probably over 60 minutes or so. But do you want everything under 10 minutes? I would say no. Can these companies deliver it sustainably? The unit economics are going to work out? I really don't think so. But I think things will change.
So quick commerce will become not so quick commerce.
If it has to be sustainable, I would say yes.
Right. We've seen the impact that social media, the rise of social media has had on marketing of brands, especially we've seen its impact on the rise of private brands in India. What do you have to say about that?
Social media, the influence of social media is all pervasive across all the sectors. And businesses are not an exception there. So the kind of influencer marketing and the influence of social media has risen phenomenally these days. These days, every celebrity is an influencer, every influencer is a celebrity. So I think as brands, if we have to survive, I think social media has become a potent weapon. And one of the advantages of private labels is that, it is actually providing a level playing field for smaller brands to actually compete with the Unilevers and P&Gs of the world. Now, if for example, if I have to launch a brand 10 years ago, right? Now, if I'm launching I own a cosmetics company, right? So if I have to launch a cosmetics brand, right? You need to own a plant, you need to formulate yourself, you need to have a manufacturing plant, you need to have a quality control department, you need to control R&D, you need to take it. The whole ecosystem there, it is huge capital cost, and it is not feasible for a small entrepreneur to launch a company there. Now today, if you want to launch a beauty brand or a cosmetics brand, I hate it as a founder of a cosmetics company, but it's all it takes is probably you can go to a contract manufacturer there, make some sampling, get some 1,000 pieces up, put it on online, and boom, you have a brand.
Yes.
Right. It's become so easy these days.
True. What kind of disruptions do you see going forward as far as these private labels are concerned? Because you have social media aiding them. And as you just mentioned, that putting it all together is so much more easier. Every other person with the right capital can become an entrepreneur. Like
everything has its own advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is that you could build a company with no capital. If you have a great product, you could build a company with almost next to nothing in terms of capital there, which is an advantage. The flip side is that the kind of competition that is growing in the market, you go and check at any marketplace, whether it's in Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, any other category, there, Zepto or Blinkit, whatever. the kind of brands that are proliferating in the market are humongous, right?
Yes.
So that is aiding in huge competition. There, differentiation has become really difficult for us.
Yeah.
But that's the flip side. The positive side is that customers have a choice. So yeah, I think customers are making merry at this point in time, enjoying great discounts.
Right. One conversation that we've been having since yesterday is about local Indian companies or brands, in our case, going global. What kind of role are omnichannels playing in this?
I am a big believer in physical retail. In fact, we at BIA Brands, we are one of the few companies, apart from your Unilevers and Procter & Gamble's there, we took a different approach to launching our brand. We have a specialty coffee brand called Brew & Bliss, right? So we've launched it in physical retail first. On day one, we are there at 1,200 modern trade stores, which is a feat I don't think anyone have achieved in the past few days. The reason for that is that not because I don't believe in the power of digital e-commerce there, but the whole point is that if you look at a category like in F&B, where the margins are less than 25-30% there. Now, if you have to give them a platform fee of 30%, add to it the cost of shipping and the cost of doing performance marketing there, I don't think any F&B brand will be able to survive.
Yeah.
And the platforms are like, even if you are a 1,000 crore brand or 100 crore, if you're selling, say, 1,000 crores on Amazon or on Flipkart there, your platform fee is not going to change. So which makes it unsustainable and not so viable there.
Right.
On the other hand, I have beauty products where the gross margins are far higher there. I am happy to sell it on Amazon and Flipkart. So I think it's important for an entrepreneur to pick the right channels to kind of do it.
But when you are launching a product, it's easier for startups to go the D2C way because it's perhaps cheaper to launch it digitally. So what do you think? Is D2C the only way to launch your FMCG startup?
Well, I wouldn't say D2C is the only way to do it, but if your capital is scarce, if you're not very confident about how your product is going to do in the market there, I would say a way to go, D2C is the only way to go. But if you have money, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but you can build a great brand physically also. So it pretty much depends on your objective. Do you want to, first try it out in the market and then go physical? It's your choice. But I would say D2C is not the only way to launch your product. I think if you have capital, if you're confident about the product, I would suggest any brand to go physical first.
Right. They might have started D2C, but they're all moving to a brick and mortar and D2C mix.
Yeah, D2C doesn't cost you a lot of money.
Yes.
So it's easier to go D2C. But if you want to build a truly scalable brand of value, I think physical retail and omnichannel is the only way to go forward.
Since you mentioned capital, we've seen over the years, despite global money movement, India has remained a sweet spot as far as investments into startups are concerned. What do you think is the impact of that on entrepreneurship in India, as well as on the kind of innovation that we are seeing here?
Well, India is a growing economy, and I think it's better than China because China is a very controlled market there. So I think it's easy for global money to chase markets with the scale as India there. So we've seen a huge influx of capital that is getting into India in the last 10 years as such, right? But the problem, what happened is that because of the global liquidity there, the kind of abundance of capital that is available in this country has become like, more startups are dying because of indigestion than on starving.
Right.
So what we've started doing is that earlier capital is an enabler. You want to do business, you need capital, so you raise funds, right? It's the way. But unfortunately, what happened is that now we started using capital as a weapon. What we are doing is that, look, I'm going to raise a fund, which is $100 million. I'm going to pump in money. By deep discounting, by driving out others, it's like a last man standing game, right? Which unfortunately is driving good businesses out of business. So I think there has to be a sanity in raising capital. We need to understand that don't stuck in this global liquidity thing. Last year, as early as last year,
yes,
zero interest rates, liquidity is coming in. Everyone are looking at India as a market there. Free capital availability, so people started raising hundreds and hundreds of $1 million. You need to look at it. Does my business need hundreds of $1 million? And I think that's the message that I want to give it to entrepreneurs is that raising capital, please see it as an enabler, and do not weaponize capital, because ultimately it is going to hurt the ecosystem. It is going to hurt the other players. It is going to hurt the smaller players there. To provide a level playing field, I think we need to use capital diligently, and with I think there is also a bit of responsibility that is involved in raising capital there.
Absolutely. Great talking to you, Sudhakar. Great conversations and wonderful phrases you've used. Weaponization of capital and how Q-commerce could be the death of e-commerce. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you, Sujata.
So do rev up for a journey into India's electrified tomorrow, where the horizon is powered not by gas, but by gigawatts. India is charging towards a cleaner, greener future with electric vehicles at the forefront. By 2030, anticipate a revolution on Indian roads where 8 crore EVs, ladies and gentlemen, hum quietly, powered by a robust network of 39 lakh charging stations. Now, this isn't just about cutting emissions, it's a full throttle move towards innovation, job creation, and energy independence. Joining us, Kartikey Hariyani, founder and CEO of ChargeZone and BILLIONe. Thanks very much, Kartikey, for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Vishnu.
I think one of the biggest problems in our country right now is, in fact, there are two. Number one, the pace of manufacture of EVs. It's difficult. It's linked to semiconductor availability at one level. Secondly, the available of infrastructure to charge these EVs. So let's talk about the second part first. How soon before we have a realistically good nationwide spread of charging points?
Yeah, it's a very valid point, and EV charging infrastructure is a number one enabler or a deterrent whether to buy or not to buy an EV. Mm-hmm. Now, Indian automotive industry or Indian automotive market is comprised of few segments of electric vehicles, which is very unseen in other parts of the world. We have two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and four-wheelers. And to begin with, luckily, a two-wheeler segment is a home charging candidate, and therefore the charging infrastructure is largely driven either at your home place or a workplace.
Yeah.
While three-wheelers and four-wheelers will be driven by commercial EV charging infrastructure, and one has to really plan for it. Unlike we probably didn't see an IC planning, an internal combustion engine planning for refueling, because it all came along.
Yep.
The gas stations, the petrol pumps got built over the last several decades. But when it comes to EVs, yes, one has to think through carefully in terms of how the EV charging networks will be planned for. The technology and the power electronics and applied electrical engineering, as well as the grids, they play a supremely or a very critical role into each of these segments. Three-wheelers are generally enabled by a battery swapping, for example, or it is also enabled by slow AC charging, which is done or built for various parking hubs. We call it overnight park and charge hubs. While four-wheelers, that includes fleet of cars or fleet of LCVs or buses and trucks, also are getting enabled by what we call as hubs and satellite points for charging infrastructure. So for each of this electric vehicle segment, the industry players have started investing into this. 6 years ago, the standards got built into this. Later on, the local ecosystem in terms of EV chargers, OEMs, played a bigger part. The localization did happen in terms of the semiconductors, in terms of power, as well as power electronics, as well as in terms of several components which forms an EV charger as an equipment, got localized in the country. And today, fortunately, as a market, as a country, we are ready with chargers localized both for three-wheelers as well as four-wheelers.
Sure. One of the big concerns that a lot of people have when it comes to buying an EV car, for example, for themselves is, look, great, I can contribute to the environment, I can buy an EV car. But if you look at our road conditions and the temperatures, right, it's extremely hot. That means there's a high use of air conditioning. If there's a high use of air conditioning, there's a lot of pressure on the battery. Start and stop traffic means that again, you're not getting very much efficiency out of the battery as well. In the case of EV cars, the cost of the car is largely the battery itself. What's the way around this?
Well, I think it's a very, very good question, but more very pertinent point when it comes to adoption of an electric car, let's say. Yeah. However, in India, the market of electric cars or cars per se has been personal mobility. Yeah. And personal mobility is a micro-mobility in our country. If I ask you, Vishnu, that do you drive more than 51 kilometers a day? Maybe answer is not. So 80% of the mobility requirement for an Indian consumer is less than 51 kilometers a day. Now with this stat, yeah, EV becomes not only a natural choice for adoption, but it is also a question whether the cost makes sense. So we call it total cost of ownership, right? And lesser the utilization, then as an individual consumer, you'll say, well, I don't need an EV, or the payback or the ROI is not really attractive. Well, sans the benefits of the of going green or contributing to the environment. But well, there are good news around. Two developments have happened in the industry so far. Over the last 2 quarters, the cost of the battery has come down by half. Now, this was largely what we call as $200 per kilowatt hour for a very long time. We have seen the numbers around $120, $130 per kilowatt hour. The second good news is some of the OEMs have initiated battery as a service, which means, coming to your second part of the question, whether the life of the battery, temperatures, potholes, traffic, acceleration, decelerations, and so on, and it will consume the life of the battery sooner than the warranty period. But well, the good news are that some of the OEMs, and I can see that most of the OEMs will follow this queue, is in terms of bringing battery as a service. Right. In other words, battery and charging effectively becomes your fueling system. And what you are actually going to buy is a car without the battery cost, right, which means equivalent to a cost of a petrol car, for example, and then you pay for battery and charging as a rupee per kilometer. Yeah. So,
what about fast charging technology? Because that's another area which is a concern of cars. I do know that fast chargers are available, but is the cost of a fast charger considerably more, and is its efficiency lower?
Vishnu, it's clear that fast charging is a key for adoption of an EV. And it's not about just cars, but also buses and trucks. Now, good news is for a charging company like ours, as ChargeZone, when we started off in 2019, there were green sprouts around electric cars coming into the market. Then electric buses started coming into the market post-COVID. And today we see the launch of electric trucks as well. So as a charging infra player, I'm agnostic to any of these four-wheelers. Now, as a priority, I will be rather enabling intercity mobility. In other words, the charging infra on highways has become our priority number 1. Apart from roughly 450 plus locations we have in the country across 22 states already, we have also electrified 30,000 kilometers of highways in India. And effectively, you can drive from Amritsar to Chennai using our network, right, without any range anxiety, whether it's for your car, for example, or even for a truck for that matter. So fast charging is a cornerstone, it's clear. But if I am going to invest onto a fast charging only for cars, well, I don't think I'm going to even make money during even my lifetime. Having said that, intercity buses and intercity trucks are going to be the biggest enabler for e-mobility ecosystem as India enters into a new phase of energy transition. And also we heard Prime Minister Modi early this morning was our net zero targets. India as a developed country, 2047 is one vision, but by 2070, though it's a 50-year...
But let me jump in and ask you one thing, since you raised it. Yeah. Why is the cost of an EV more than a petrol vehicle if, as you say, the cost of the battery has come down by half?
Yeah, right. So, well, it's clear that, and it's very, very kind of common sense approach to analyze this. When you move from a diesel car to a electric car, you are taking out the engine, you are taking out the powertrain. What you're bringing are the motor controllers. You're bringing the motor, e-axle, for example, which is the next big thing, and the batteries. However, battery has played an important role as far as the cost of EVs are concerned. Now, there is still a gap in terms of roughly 50% now between a cost of a diesel car on road versus an EV car. Well, the TCO, the total cost of ownership in case of a car, if you are at 1.5x, which is the case today, in this quarter you'll see that you'll see a lot of new launches, or come Bharat Mobility in January 25. You'll see new launches or slew of launches by various OEMs where the cost of EV will be 40 to 50% higher than let's say a petrol or diesel car for that matter. But a TCO for a consumer will matter if he's driving roughly, let's say, 100 kilometers a day. Yeah, so that's where the TCO becomes very, very attractive at par what is going to pay for petrol or diesel. Well, but if you, but at the same time, when we speak about car, let us talk about commercial EVs as well.
Sure.
Buses and trucks. And fundamentally, in both the cases, we have seen the cost dwindling down thanks to the cost of batteries and thanks to the volume uptick, because the other factor apart from the cost of battery is also the volume production as an opportunity by the OEMs, which also brings the cost of components down. Otherwise, it will stay higher. But in case of, just like in case of cars, I mentioned 1.5x, we have figured out as a platform BILLIONe that if an electric truck or electric bus is 2x the cost of the current diesel truck or a diesel bus, your TCO will be equivalent to a diesel cost, because thanks to the arbitrage of the cost per kilometer on a diesel versus cost of per kilometer for an electric.
Yeah.
Just to give you a context in terms of numbers, a bus or a truck, for example, will be 25 to 30 rupees per kilometer, while for an electric bus or electric truck, it is less than 15 rupees per kilometer.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for being a part of the NDTV World Summit.
Thank you, Vishnu.
Thank you.